Greetings collectors and welcome to today's retro game review. It's time to go full on Marvel today with Captain America and the Avengers for the Sega Mega Drive and Genesis. Just to frame this episode, I am a fan of Marvel. Since the creation of the modern Marvel Cinematic Universe, often referred to as the MCU, it's been easier than ever to get into the franchise, with huge blockbusters such as the Avengers, Spider-Man, X-Men, Guardians of the Galaxy, and the many other characters that populate the MCU. Now, since you're watching an old school gaming channel, I'm going to stick my neck out and predict that a fair number of you watching this episode are either a more casual viewer of the franchises, such as myself, or one of those collectors that knows Marvel lore inside out. Whilst I've seen all of the MCU movies to date, all the Sony produced Spider-Man movies, and all of those post-2000 movies such as Daredevil, Elektra, Fantastic Four, etc., I do ask that you bear with me if I get some of the minute details incorrect. I know that the hardcore Marvel fans take their series very seriously, and my intention is never to mislead anyone, so I'll do my best for you. I'm most familiar with the Capcom Marvel related games, so I'll try and refer to the computing universe of Marvel rather than the MCU if there's any doubt. With that said, I do have a big book of all things Marvel on hand for research. As it says, it has absolutely everything you need to know. So, what's it all about? In short, Captain America and the Avengers is very much a generic comic-to-game adaptation of the core Captain America story arc. Captain America assuming the lead of the Avengers against his sworn enemy, the Red Skull. In terms of execution, the game is a typical 90s brawler, lots of bad guys to punch and throw stuff at. At the start of the game, you can choose from 4 Avengers: Vision, Iron Man, Captain America, and Hawkeye. First up is Vision. Now, if you're like me and mainly know Vision from the Age of Ultron movie, you're going to have to adapt to the comic book aesthetic of him in this game. The Big Book of Marvel informs us that he is a super synthezoid, because, well, science. Interestingly, in the comic he does appear in a form very similar to the MCU, but also as this alternate continuum silver version. Of course, it's a bit less work to colour in a sprite that's white, so it looks like the alternative version won out here. All of the characters have a range of punches, kicks, and some variety of projectile. True to form, Vision uses an energy beam from his forehead. Next up we have Iron Man. So here we have perhaps one of the modern fan favourites. When the Iron Man movies came out, this was the point where I personally started paying attention to Marvel again. Again, if you're a fan of the MCU, you may notice that his 90s game appearances are slightly different to what you may be used to. Having scanned through the Big Book of Marvel, it's clear that Iron Man's appearance has changed subtly but many times over the years. I've landed on saying he's wearing the iconic armour, rather than the alternate earlier red and yellow armour. Either way, he looks very much as fans of the classic Iron Man would want. Iron Man has a range of punches, kicks, and of course the iconic red power beams. Captain America is very much as advertised. Again, if you're one of the super hardcore fans, you'll notice that his costume could be anything from the 1980s to the late 1990s. Overall, it's a classic appearance. However, he does have one hell of a suntan in the select screen, looking far more like an African American Nick Fury Jr., not to be confused with Nick Fury Sr., who is most definitely white. Although, guess what? There's a continuum where Captain America is black, so who knows? What I do know though, is that Captain America's shield is the best projectile weapon in the game. You can keep spamming it, it will hit enemies on the way out and returning, so it's a very useful weapon and makes Captain America the go-to character of the game. Oh, and there's Captain America's runty little sidekick Hawkeye, but no one really cares about him too much in the comics, movies, and the games alike. Couldn't we have had Black Widow, the Hulk, or Thor? Stupid Hawkeye. What fans will enjoy though is the inclusion of Red Skull, an appropriate bad guy for a Captain America-led game. So, how does it play? Well, if I'm honest, it's average at best. The enemy character sprites appear really quite flat, with as low as 4 colours. Compare this to Streets of Rage 2 on the same system, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that you were playing this on the Sega Master System. The general brawling is reasonable. It can get a little uninspiring at times, as it's very much rinse and repeat. Games such as Golden Axe just looked and played better. It's a shame, as there's a lot to enjoy about Captain America and the Avengers. Certain levels break out into a horizontal shooter style of gameplay. Again though, this appears a bit uninspiring and as if to distract you from the main segments, rather than be a standout epic moment in their own right. I can't help but feel that Captain America looks like he's riding some sort of futuristic mobility scooter. As you can see, there's zero skill involved in these shooter levels. It's just a case of rapid fire and then the occasional dodge. There also seems to be the ability to have 4 shields on the screen at any given time if you spam the throw key fast enough. The game does get the boss fights right. Now even the Big Book of Marvel struggles with the detail for some of these characters. The boss fights tend to focus on typical pattern behaviour. Once you know the boss's pattern, they are reasonably easy to exploit. There is some good variation in here though, so this will be a fan pleaser for the more knowledgeable fans of the Marvel Universe. There is some nice fan service in the game. Expect cameos from Wonder Man, Quicksilver and Whirlwind. Perhaps a talking point though is the noticeable absence of female characters in the game. In general, this seems to be an issue with 90s Marvel. We do see this fairy-like creature, which I presume is Wasp. We have obscure characters like Whirlwind in here, but very little in the way of female representation. Would it have killed the game developers to drop out Hawkeye and substitute in Black Widow? Stupid Hawkeye. So, with the game obviously intended to appeal to its fans, is it worth collecting? The UK Sega Mega Drive edition of Captain America and the Avengers comes in a standard black plastic case, but with some excellent front cover artwork, as you might expect from a company that's made its living from well-drawn action scenes. Prices here in the UK are incredibly unstable at the moment, depending on when the movies hit the big screen. Anywhere from 15 to 30 British pounds is now normal for a complete in-box edition. Although recently we've seen the manual alone sell for over £10. I can't help but think that this was a late night alcohol-fueled bidding war purchase. In terms of collectability, this title has kept its value quite well, and with the seemingly never-ending wave of Marvel movies in the pipeline, it's likely that the Marvel games as a whole will continue to find a home in many collections. In truth, the game isn't great. It's a bit clunky, the graphics are below par compared to games on the same system, and the sound is all over the place at times. Everything in here could have led to an excellent game, but the small issues just build up to create a bit of an underwhelming experience. For those of you without a vested interest in the Marvel Universe, you're going to struggle to enjoy this one for long playthroughs. When similar games such as the Turtles Hyperstone Heist provided so much more polish to what is essentially a very similar game, the system could offer so much more than Captain America and the Avengers delivered. However, if you played this one in your youth, there is always value in a trip down memory lane. The game is certainly playable and does reach out to the correct audience. This certainly isn't my favourite Marvel game, but it was a platform for the company to build on for later games to come. Rubbish Hawkeye, this is why you don't get your own movie. Hello again, I hope you enjoyed today's show and thank you for the view. Remember, you can always comment, like, subscribe and find us on the social media sites below. Happy collecting!